Good evening. It is July 26, 2022, and here's what we're looking at for the day. Prices were ranging in the overnight, but we made this move down. We had a break and two measured legs down to a new low. Before I saw this as a brief reversal, and then we made another leg down to a new low. So maybe this is just sideways stuff, and we have one leg, two legs down to a new low. But let's check out these trades. You know what? I haven't checked out the daily chart. Let's take a look at what that looks like. So, okay, yeah, it looks like the breakout of the range is failing because this right here is a range, but you can see we're finding some resistance or some support at the top of that range. So maybe we'll bounce. Maybe that'll fail. Who knows? We'll have to see in the coming days. But anyway, so in the overnight we had this range, and you test the lows once right here. You test them again right here. And with all that room back to the EMA, you might take a chance on that. There's only, I think, like 7 ticks back to the EMA here, 53.25, and you can see that it just touches the EMA. 53. Yeah. So there's about 6 ticks. So that's just enough for a scalp, and that's why you want to be aware of that stuff. And honestly, I would have thought at the time that we would test that midline one more time, or not one more time, but test it again. And you can see with the news item, the volatility brings it a little lower, and then we come back up and come near that midline. This turns out to be a trend channel lower though, and if you happen to see that, you might take this second entry short right here. It's a very bearish bar, so you might take that. I think I marked that red. I would prefer marking that green. I don't know what's going on with my mouse. All right, there we go. Especially because you wouldn't have had this channel. If anything, at this point, you'd probably be looking at the channel looking like that instead of like this. So anyway, we come down here, and at this point it looks like it's a failed break lower. You get a higher low but no setup, comes back in and continues to find resistance right there. So this is a second entry. I didn't even bother marking it, just because of how big that signal bar is. Is this the data box? So yeah, 25 ticks, so over 6 points. I don't think you want to take that, especially you're going into these lows. It's not a good idea. But anyway, we come down here and we're chopping around a little bit. However, you should have this trend channel by now because of this. So when you come down here, this second entry short fails. It's near the midline, so you want to watch out for that. This looks pretty much like a second entry short to me, but the reason I like it is because it's a lower high off that trend channel. And I marked this green, but I really like this one. To be honest, though, I probably marked it green because there's a lot of dojis in here. But it does look good. And then we get a first entry, second entry. That's a beautiful setup. And then you get this lower high. You could even argue for this to be a failed second entry long, but it's above the EMA. So not the greatest, but with that super bullish bar. And this is a downtrend. I like that. And we get a break, and you get a double test up here. No setup though. Lower high right here, lower high again. So maybe you might take that as a failure. I'll mark it green, but that is a first and second entry, and it's like a breakout pullback of that range right there. So there's reasons to like that. Here we have a double bottom, so I don't think it's a double bottom, and you probably wouldn't have had this trend channel drawn, so I don't think you can take this. Technically, it's not a second entry short because of this double bottom, and that trend fails. And really what we have here is this is a range. It's just hard to know where the highs and the lows are. I'd probably have it drawn like this, and then we break out to the low side, it fails, comes to the high side, and when you get this lower high with this much price rejection, I really like this. The only problem is you're going into this midline of that range, so for that reason it's risky, but that looks pretty good to me. Then we find some congestion right here again, so basically you get a leg down. You can see that, and you can see the overshoot that leads to the break, and this is just a leg of correction right here. Or maybe two legs of correction. Well, you can see actually one leg, two legs of correction, just some sideways stuff. Breaks out to the high side. So you wouldn't have had this channel drawn till here. I guess this is where we get confirmation of it. But you might argue that this is like a fail break higher, but I'm not going to mark that. There are plenty of other good trades in here. You get this lower high, but you're going into the lows, so I don't think you want to take that, even though it confirms that trend line. All it is a lower high. And then we're pretty far from the EMA up here, and you get from this price level, you come up, you test it once. This is a second entry right here, but it's not a good signal bar. It's just an inside bar. We come down here, and you get a second entry short. That's also a double test. And let's see, I'm guessing this is like, yeah, 5-tick bar. I think you have to take that. Because, if it was just a second entry short, or if it's just a double test and it's after the trend line break, you might not take that. But with it being a second entry short as well as the double test, and we only had, this is the first break, and that super bullish bar, I think you have to take that. And it's 5 ticks. Then we come down here, we find some support, and you get a double test, but I'm not trying to go long yet. Make this higher low. If you're feeling aggressive and you want to go long, well, we just had confirmation of this upward trend channel, so you might take this failure. But I'm not too crazy about that. Just because, this thing could turn down again. And I think at this point, you get this second entry. It sets up below the EMA, so I marked it blue because it's off the trend channel, and we've already had confirmation of this trend channel. So I marked it blue. Plenty of room to the highs. I wouldn't take it because of the bias of the day, but I think advanced chart readers, they can probably take it. And then you come up here, and I think this bar is like 4 ticks, so it's not a failure. But with it being, I think it's, let's check it out, 4 ticks. Yeah, it's 4 ticks. You might think about that. Then we get an overshoot, and actually this is a failure right here. But you get this doji. I mean, that's tough because with the overshoot, that's kind of tempting, but 33.50, it's only a 3-point bar, but you can see that definitely fails if you go to long down here. So I don't really know what to tell you. This is clearly a move down, and that's a failed second entry long. Where did we find support? just that this swing high really is where you found support. So I don't know what to say about that. I mean, maybe you look at this. Yeah, that's a channel. That's clearly a channel, so you should expect a new high after that, or at least a test of these highs, because that's very clearly a channel. So maybe that keeps you out of this trade. Here we have a second entry short, and I think I have to mark this because it's only testing this price level once, but it fails to make a new high, and that's an extremely bearish bar. We just had this overshoot. I think you got to take that. And you can see it finds some support at this trend line, but eventually it breaks. And then we come up here and you get this double test. And I marked this green because it's just this first entry, but I really like this. And that would have been a really good move if you took that. And that forms a spike and channel down. I don't see an entry in here. We come down here, and this is a double bottom. So technically this is a first entry, but it looks like a second entry to me. Very bearish bar, closes below the EMA on a day like today. I'd definitely consider that. And then we come up here and you find some congestion around this price level over here, but it's actually moving up and probably traps some people thinking it's a spike in channel, and then it brings it down. This is a second entry long right here, and it would have worked, but it just looks like it's close to resistance, because I'd probably be playing it like that. Actually, I mean, I don't know. This is tough, but I just, with a bias like today, I don't think I would be going long there. Not a lot of room to these highs. So that's all I saw for today. I've been pretty inconsistent with these videos just because I'm not working. It's summer. I'm a teacher. And I just don't really have a schedule, but I'm trying. But anyway, I hope everyone's doing well, and I'll try and be back tomorrow.